So with Consul network infrastructure automation, what we've done here is we've kind of have this day 1 and day 2 of provision. Day 0 and 1 and day 2. Day 0 is where we use Terraform to kind of configure the infrastructure. So, if I'm going to be configuring an F5 itself. All right, so let me just open that up for you so you can see. So in here, I have Terraform code that bootstraps an F5. If I go to my F5 right now, hopefully everybody can see this. I can make it bigger. Right now, with this configuration, I have an F5 that's basic. It's really just, it's been deployed on VMware, so on-prem in this use case, has no virtual servers, no networking configuration, nothing deployed itself. What I want to do is do day 0 and day 1, provision this F5. So I wrote the Terraform code here, right? It's on my GitHub, it's on my repo. I'll share it to the team after. But it's fairly basic in here. We have our Terraform provider. So we're using the F5 Terraform big IP provider. In here, we're just, telling, hey, here's the management IP address and password, right? In later versions of this, you could tie this into Vault, which is a secrets management. You can hide all these variables so you don't see it. Then what we want to do, because F5, and I haven't played with 17, I know it just came out yesterday, but right now it doesn't come with declarative onboarding RPM, so the package installed. So we actually install the do package, so declarative onboarding. And we have to wait a couple seconds for it to do that. Once we've installed it, we actually have a template of the big IP config. So I have my big IP template in here. Let me just minimize this. And this is just a JSON file where I have the host name, just a variable, right? Certain things, DNS address, NTP, maybe user accounts, different modules I'm provisioning, so LTM, the VLANs I'm configuring on here. So I'm, external VLAN and internal VLAN, the self IP addresses that I'm putting in here. Here's the self IP addresses, floating addresses you could add in here, routes. So everything, the base config, the F5 is in this declarative onboarding config. And there's many examples off the F5 website on how you can do it. Certain things like syslog. I just wanted to add other things that I do add. What I used to add as an F5 consultant is, certain cipher suites. I'd automatically eliminate, right, the weaker cipher suites out there. So this is our declarative onboarding config, has some SNMP stuff, pretty straightforward. So
real quick on that before you move on, just your recommendation for people who are just getting started. Do you recommend like abstracting as much as possible, or keep it all where it kind of makes sense and get success, make things work, and then start abstracting through variables and templates and stuff?
Definitely make it work first and then add templates, right? This is a .tmp, it could be a JSON, but this is like a hybrid, this config. And the reason I made it a hybrid, some are variables, some are not, just to show that you can migrate this template to a more hybrid setup, or a or variable setup itself. But getting right into it, it's super easy. It's not a lot of work. Like, yeah, there's 51 lines of code here, but I'm doing is installing AS3, installing the declarative onboarding on here. And simply, if I go into my terminal here, Consul, right? So for Terraform, I need to first initiate Terraform, right? So initiating Terraform is going to download all these plugins. So it's downloading, as you can see, the big IP actual plugin. I've initiated the config. It has all the actual providers that are required in here. Then I want to do Terraform plan. So Terraform plan is going to allow me to show me what changes I'm going to make. So it actually gives me all the changes in that declarative onboarding, and it's going to fill in all the information. Hey, I'm doing declarative onboarding JSON. Here's the syslog, the routes, external IP, and it has this plus sign. That plus sign identifies, hey, I'm adding to it, right? So we'll go to Terraform apply. And then what it's going to do is going to ask me, hey, do you want to make these changes? And we see those plus signs. Yeah, I do. So I'm going to press yes. And then it goes out and talks to the F5 and goes to GitHub with these scripts, and these scripts I just downloaded off the F5 website. Starts downloading the latest F5 declarative onboarding RPM. Then it installs that RPM onto the F5. And you'll see shortly here, hopefully on the right-hand side. It waits the time, then it says on the bottom here, deploying VO. So now we're deploying the actual configuration on the F5. What you see, if you didn't catch that, my host name just changed in the top right-hand corner here,
yep.
Right? So all of these changes are automatically being provisioned. It's restarting the services, so it went offline, right?
And it looked like it went to a standalone too.
This version right now is just a standalone itself. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This version is just a standalone. So because I'm applying the LTM and I'm provisioning other modules, it will have to be a reboot, right? That's why we call it a day 0, day 1. And we have to apply these changes. So as this is running, we can take a look at network self IP addresses. So boom, our network self IP addresses are configured and our routes are deployed. We still have no virtual servers because all we're doing is deploying the networking components of this configuration. And if we click on our packages, right, we just see that the declarative onboarding was installed. And as this finishes, now it installs AS3.
Well, that's doing an install real quick. We got a question from Daniel Pacheco. Advantages, differences of using Terraform versus Ansible.
Hey, Dan. Yeah, the biggest advantage I love with Terraform is the state, right? Terraform knows the state of the actual infrastructure. So you can always reference that in the config itself, right? Ansible is kind of stateless, so you have to push configs to it. Terraform knows the state itself. So we have our F5 deployed, right? Just like we would in a production environment. The next thing we want to do is, well, how do we do day 2 stuff, right? So with Consul, Terraform Sync, right? Consul is this catalog, and we register apps in this catalog itself. Once we register an app, right, we can tell Consul Sync which services belong to this configuration, and then it's going to push configs to the F5. And I'll show you guys how that's done. So just to give you a heads up, here is Terraform, Terraform Cloud. Let me just refresh this. And Terraform Cloud is going to hold the state of my configurations. So I'll know any changes that have happened. In here, I have Consul. This is HashiCorp Consul, and I've registered three nodes. So 3 servers, node app 1, 2, and 3. If we take a look at the configuration, I'll just show it quickly here. This is the config. So this app is running on Docker, on some container, and it's registered to my Consul server. And I have this service, right? This is that service that I'm registering for this node. And this is the important part. In here, the metadata is where I'm selecting how to build that F5 VIP, right? For this instance, here's my VIP address. So my VIP address, the port that it's going to be working on, and the template I'm using. If I look at my F5 workspace repo itself, we have this configuration with a bunch of templates. And these templates can be either HTTP classes, they can be generic, they can be however you define them, but they're templates. So like I was saying, most customers will have maybe 5 or 6 of these different ones. So when that new app gets spun up and it's registered, right, it will automatically add itself. So how does that work? So in this config, just from a time perspective, I've registered the apps, right? So I have the maps and I've registered services. I have a web service and I just have a TCP service of 1 server. Consul is also doing a health check on these applications, right? So we're doing a TCP health check on that IP, making sure, that service is online. So what we have to do is when we configure Consul Terraform Sync, this is the actual configuration we have here. We specify our driver, which is the big IP provider like we did before. What's the IP address of the console? The IP address of the big IP we're talking about. And this line of code is where we specify, what services are going to be online. So we just give it a name. Here's my GitHub repo. So it's just a public repo where I have all my templates. The provider is the big IP, and we're going to start a web service. So if I go into here, if I take a look at the configuration on Consul, I just made slight changes to it where I added TCP, so this service TCP, and web, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to execute this so we can see the logs on here. Hopefully this kind of shows nicely. So I've executed Terraform Consul sync, and this runs as a daemon in the background all the time. When I take a look at my Terraform cloud, I see my workspace. So this is where these apps are hosted in this workspace, front-end workspace, is starting to queue up. Right? It says, hey, there's been a change. I've noticed that inside of Consul, you've registered these apps, and these apps are online. Right? So I'm going to go and execute the plan. I'm going to build the configuration based off what I saw inside those tags. So it goes in and builds the AS3 config, right? Builds the TCP service, finds the virtual server I had, finds the server's IP addresses. I never put in the server's IP addresses because the app team already registered those services to Consul. So I have no idea what those IPs are or what ports they're actually running on the back end, right? And then it goes and builds the F5. So if I, in here, so now it's applying the configuration to the F5. First it does that plan, so it applied the config. I refresh my page. I see that it built my new partition called front-end Terraform, right? Which is great. So now I have my apps or my config on my F5 is built automatically based on what the app team has registered in Consul, right? But what happens if I shut down a web server? So let's just do this just for fun. We'll go to web 2. Let me just copy that IP address. And I'm just going to SSH into this box. And sudo reboot. I'm just going to reboot this device. So the device is being rebooted, right? My node is gone. The node here is done, right? The F5, if I go to network maps, let's go to network. Where is this network? Just a little slow to shut it down. It's shutting down this pool right now, right? So the F5 is rebooting. Wait till F5 sees that health monitor. Which one did I shut down? 52. Okay, good. So now my pool member is dead, right? I haven't done anything. I just destroyed the actual application, right? My actual pool member is dead. If I go to my Terraform sync, it said, hey, you made a change. This actually happened super quick. You made a change inside of Consul in your catalog. And this service now, web, only has one instance. So Terraform automatically, right, is doing another apply. Said, hey, you made a config change. The app shouldn't be there. Let's clean it up because I don't want old IPs, old pool members inside of this config. So same process, right? It runs its apply. Well, it's already finished, right? It told me what it's going to do. It's going to delete this virtual server. So if I go to my F5 and I refresh it, right, it's gone now. It's out of the actual config. And I did nothing on the F5 to actually provision it because based on what the service catalog says and is online, that's what I want the F5 to actually build. Right?
That's really powerful because that removes, like you said, I wrote it down because I loved it, the continuous disappointment.
Yes,
you know?
Nathan Pierce. I don't know if you remember Nathan Pierce. He coined that term. So that's kind of the power of Consul NIA. And I can, if I spin this app back online. So if I spin this app back online or add another new app, that inside of the services, right, I have this metadata. And you can see this metadata if we actually go to web tags, node. So I turned on the server, so this is online. As you can see, the web is saying, hey, one instance is down. It's going to do a health check on it. So this tags, so under services, you can see it very nicely here. It's using this HTTP template. It's using that VIP and that port. So literally I added that service back online in here. Let's go to Terraform just so we visually see. It noticed, hey, you made a change inside of your service registry on Consul. I'm going to go ahead and apply the configuration again. So I'm going to go in and add that pool member back in here. Takes a couple seconds, still applying. And that's kind of the power of this NIA is. And not only can we do pool members, what happens if this IP address has an ACL, right, in a Fortinet or Checkpoint, or an ACL in AWS, right? We can automatically remove and add, because inside of this Docker and container world that we're moving towards from an app side, I might not know the IP address. This IP address of the server is generated by DHCP automatically. So as an administrator on the F5, and see the pool members back online without me doing anything, right? As an administrator of the F5, I don't really care now what the IP address is, right? As long as it's registered in service and I can tag it. And I also can tag different things. So right now I have a production tag. I can add different tasks and conditions that say, hey, if this is development or UAT or staging, then go to the staging F5, right?
Yeah, or even if you wanted to do like some blue-green testing or whatever
exactly,
like that,
yes.
you can. Yeah, that's a lot, because it really takes the production effort away from the infrastructure, and you're just saying, hey, the infrastructure is ready to go. You do what you need to do with your services, and it'll just take care of you.
That's right. And your services inside of the console is your kind of source of truth, right? Because these are the only services that should be running. And this helps with cleanup, right? Like, or shadow IT or whatever the term was called, where you have all these apps and services deployed. And in my days as an F5 consultant, I'd migrate F5s, and 4 out of the 10 pool members are done. And what's the server? What's this IP? Nobody knows, right? So those objects fill that F5. And that was the demo itself. I can.
Well, that was amazing. Yeah.
Where the repos are, if you quickly share the screen.
Oh, sure,
from
absolutely.
a time perspective.
Yep.
You can just hit up my repo here, just Mine Academy, and this is the actual config to deploy those. It's super small. You have our main TF, not too big, right? I just made a module for it, and then I have all the templates. So in here, I'll be adding different types of templates, cookie persistence, iRules, or anything like that. So then customers can use and provision it. But the concept is that I have this code that really I don't have to change. All I have to change in here is the AS3 templates. So from a learning curve perspective, all I really need to know is how do I build my F5s in a templated format.
Right. And what services do you slide in and out depending on what type of application you support?
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm just always amazed how quickly these scripts and such can actually configure and populate a device. It's remarkable just how fast they can do it.
Oh yeah, even like as simple as like if I edit this and I'm like, I don't want TCP. Maybe that doesn't belong here, right? I'm going to delete TCP out of the service. Right. Then we'll automatically go into my Terraform cloud, kick off the agent, and make the config. And the nice thing, what I meant with Terraform keeps a state, is that every change I've had that I've done, and now in the past before, I actually know the state by going to state in here. and I can actually see what was configured on the F5. So I already have a log of what kind of changes, what were made. And then also, there's other things you can set notifications on here where you can, make a webhook and email or Slack that every time an app gets added, a Slack team notification goes on, an email goes on. So you're aware of the actual changes being done on your F5 environment.
One of the things I was thinking about this morning was, with all the automation, and then we have the smart speakers or, Siri on the iPhones where you just tell it to do something. Like, when are we going to get to that point where you can just speak in, okay, I want a secure web server that does this, that has that can do that. And it's vocally picked up by the AI and then initiates the
I would assume somebody's working on it. I've seen things like that. But I'm assuming somebody's working on that, to be honest.
Gotta be.
Right.
That'll be the next frontier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, that's there today, right? Because it's no different than a Slack bot, and you can just type that thing out, or you could say it through to, one of your, Google Dots, or is Google a dot? I can't keep them straight. The Amazon Echo or whatever, but it's
Don't
there
say
today.
Too
but
loud,
it's also
going to start going off in my house.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's also a little concerning. I don't remember the meme, but it was something like with Donald Trump said something, and like he's like going after because it thought he said I'm gonna launch the nuke now or whatever. It's like, your voice activation may or may not be what you want exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I just finish it off. I deleted the TCP one, and it's gone. It's not here anymore.
Yeah, there you go.
Other than that, I don't want to bore you guys with slides, right? This is kind of how the day 2 environment looks like from my perspective, where I have my Consul servers, and then my apps are registered to it. Once they register, Consul Terraform sync does its job and provisions what is needed based on those tags.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. Well, as always, I'm always enlightened when you join us, Sebastian. So, we're super grateful for you making the time to be here. Daniel has a comment here. I think you could do that. Yeah. Echo.lambda functions. Yep, you could do that.
Yeah.
And then Jaren, Terraform optimized for infrastructure deployment. Ansible for managing. Yeah, Ansible's more, your day 2 configuration, right? And Terraform for your day 0 and 1. But, so, if you're just having the Terraform versus Ansible argument, it's not really an either or, it's a both and.
They work together very well. Like you'll see tons of organizations use both, right? And they'll wrap their CI/DI pipeline around that, right? So there's ways to solve everything.
Right.
Just got to do it. And you got to change the mindset. That's the biggest thing when talking to customers is the mindset. Like even this, what do you mean I can't log into an F5? Well, you don't need to log into an F5 now. Just use its features based off the code that you write for it.
Yeah. Which is pretty fantastic. Although, the nostalgia of logging into an F5 console. What I always say, it's like, it's great to abstract it. But it's also great to understand it. So, you start with, hey, what are your templates doing? And it's like that whole HAL 9000. What are you doing, Dave? It's like, I definitely want to know what's going on under the hood. But once I know that, abstract away, automate the boring stuff, right?
Exactly.
And we got some love from Daniel Wolf for you there, Sebastian. Totally amazing demo and great slides. I concur. That was awesome. All right, well, we will let you get to it, mister. Thank you so much for joining us today. And, we'll hopefully see you again soon. You mentioned a whole lot of TCP dump stuff, and I want to start doing some 3 to 5 minute featurettes on TCP dump and what we might be able to do with PyShark and Scapy and all that kind of stuff. So I may hit you up on the, on the side for some love on that front.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, 100%, man. I'm always down to talk with you guys.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Appreciate it.